All right, there it is. Matt Eberflus has been fired for the first time in the organization's history. They have fired a coach in season, and I don't know what to say other than it obviously had to be done. I know he spoke to the media this morning. I did not buy that for 1 second, that meant that he was staying. This was just a different situation, and it needed to happen. Adam Hoge, Greg Braggs Jr. here with you. Special emergency edition of the CHGO Bears podcast. Mark Carman will join us in a little bit. Nicholas Moreano will join us in a little bit. I think we're going to hear from Lance Briggs as well. So quite frankly, we've been prepared for this all morning, and we are ready to go here with a great show for you. People will be popping in and out as happens with the emergency pod. But Greg, how you feeling right now, buddy?
Well, we've finally arrived at what needed to be done weeks ago. So, you know, it's here. Our heads are collectively spinning. As Matt Eberflus talked to the media at 9 a.m. It was scheduled for 9 a.m. and then they go at 9:05, which led all of us to believe like, oh, something's going on. And then here comes Matt Eberflus at the podium talking about looking ahead to the Niners game. Not so fast, my friend. Now Matt Eberflus is out. And then the biggest question, that was a foregone conclusion. Matt Eberflus was going to be out when the season was over. That's why they needed to nip it in the bud after the Patriots game. This team quit on Matt Eberflus after the Washington game. And everyone could see it. And the way the players were airing out their dirty laundry on the air, through the media, throughout each week after each demoralizing loss, the writing had been on the wall. And it was honestly not just fair to the players and the fans to have to go through this, but it wasn't also fair to Matt Eberflus to just keep dragging him through the coals when we all knew he was dead man walking. The bigger question now was who was going to take over for his place. Would it be Eric Washington? Would it be Richard Hightower or Thomas Brown, who could potentially be your next head coach for the Chicago Bears? And now you get a 5-game audition to see who he is. So a lot of interesting things here, you know, just got decided in a short period of time coming off a holiday night. And so now we have our answers finally.
Yeah. And it does appear that Thomas Brown will take over as the Bears interim head coach here, according to multiple reports. I did confirm the firing. I had not had it confirmed yet that that's where they were going with the interim coach, but I know Schefter's put that out. A lot of people put that out, and I think it's the most. We just got done with the Hogan Johns episode. A lot of people probably just followed us right over here, and I just got done going off on how I think it would be crazy to have anybody else besides Thomas Brown be the head coach. I totally understand that it's a crazy promotion to go from passing game coordinator to offensive coordinator to head coach in just a few weeks. But this is a crazy situation. And this is by far, in my opinion, the guy who has the most upside, the most likelihood of actually being your head coach here officially. And to not give him a 5-game interview here, to be able to see, oh, yeah, everybody's so worried about can he, what's this going to mean for Caleb? Well, we need to find that out, because if you go hire Ben Johnson, it's the same freaking thing. Can he be the OC and the head coach at the same time? That's going to apply to no matter who you hire if it's an offensive head coach who also envisions calling the plays. So why not just find out right now with a guy you have in your system? And if it goes well, maybe you get your answer. Maybe you can keep status quo for Caleb Williams, which would be amazing. And maybe that's not the most likely outcome right now, but to me, trying anything else in this situation would make zero sense. So despite all of the craziness that's been going on here and all these things that have not made sense for weeks, at least they've landed on, to me, Greg, a solution here that is logical.
I agree. And there's pros and cons to that decision of Thomas Brown as your interim head coach. We understand the momentum that Caleb Williams and Thomas Brown have found themselves in here over these last 3 weeks against 3 tough divisional opponents, arguably the best division in football. And look at the numbers that Caleb Williams has posted against each of these teams, and then each game being decided on the final play of the game. Demoralizing. But at the same time, we understand, hey, I see the logic. Hey, let's keep Thomas Brown where he is. Let's keep Caleb Williams on the right track. That I get it. But hey, this isn't an ideal situation. I think we can all recognize that. And so the bigger issue I would have had was if you fast forwarded to the end of the season and Thomas Brown and Caleb Williams have made this connection where they have real momentum and Caleb Williams is now vouching for him to be your head coach. And all of a sudden, Thomas Brown gets hired as your head coach and you never actually gave him that trial run, because now we're walking into next year with a lot of uncertainties of how he can actually handle calling plays from the sidelines and also being the leader of the entire team, offense, defense, and special teams, and then also developing your quarterback all in the same. So you get a 5-game short sample size trial run to see how he handles this. I think this is absolutely the right move.
Look, when it comes to Matt Eberflus, and we have the stats for you right here, man, this was just, it was just bad. I don't know what else to say. 14-32 overall. I love that we have the challenges on here, 2 for 10. He had not won. He's 0 for 5 this year. He had not won one in over a calendar year, although he almost won one yesterday, but the refs were like, no, we got this. We're not even going to let you challenge this. 1 possession games, comes down to a final record of 5-19 versus the NFC North, just 2-13, including 0-3 in the last 3 weeks when all 3 games were winnable, and road games 3-19. When you lay it all like that, a lot of times the numbers don't always tell the whole context, but when you throw in the 1-score games in there, he's also, in my opinion, 0-3 actually we can probably even go beyond 3 games, but 0-3 in the last month or so, and mind-boggling losses that should get you fired. But you want to throw in games from last year, the Browns game, the Lions game, the Broncos game. These were all games in which the Bears had an over 95% chance of winning,
right,
that they somehow blew. So the evidence was there, and it might not have seemed like a large enough sample size, but there's no way to cut this, Greg, other than, regardless of what anyone's opinions were, and we talked about at the time and how much Jim Harbaugh made sense, but keeping Matt Eberflus in January and then allowing him to make the horrible coaching addition that was Shane Waldron was just an unbelievably bad decision. And the people who went along with that are still there, and that matters too here.
Right. I mean, that's the point, is you can talk about all of these tormenting, devastating losses that they've had over the last 2 years, and even 3 years. If you date back to, when the Bears ended up with the number 1 pick, I mean, look at how many 1-score games they lost that year in bizarre fashion. And we chalked it up, obviously, to a rebuilding roster. But even still, there was a lot of situational moments in those games you could point to going back 3 years. So the bigger thing is, to your point, I mean, the coaching decisions. How many coordinators have been fired under Matt Eberflus? I think it's up to 8, 9 if we include Phil Snow. And so, he is the common denominator. And the bizarre fashion in which Alan Williams was shown the door at the beginning of last year. You had the running backs coach that was quietly fired for whatever reason that we never found out. The entire offensive coaching staff was shown the door last offseason. Now you bring in a bunch of other guys. None of these guys ever felt actually tied to Matt Eberflus. This wasn't a Matt Eberflus coaching tree. This was just a bunch of hired guns that weren't anybody. There was no connection to these guys, and each one of them continued to get shown the door. And for Shane Waldron to be chosen as the offensive coordinator, and this drags out all the way until November, and he gets fired, and then you hear Keenan Allen say, yeah, well, we saw that he wasn't coaching us hard enough in OTAs and minicamp. What? Well, hey, Matt Eberflus, this is your locker room. That's your sidelines. How are you not paying attention to those things? Then you get to week 3 of the season. Mercedes Lewis is calling a meeting with Shane Waldron. Coach us harder. And Matt Eberflus, that's on your watch. So that's why I was so offended a few weeks ago that they fired just Shane Waldron. I didn't mean he was a scapegoat in that he didn't deserve to be fired. He was a scapegoat because the actual problem is Matt Eberflus. You can talk about everybody else, but he's the guy where the buck stops. And so I just always took offense to the fact that Waldron was the only one shown the door. And guess what? Now the organization had to wear 3 of the most embarrassing losses in a row on their chin for that decision. And now we finally get to this moment.
Yeah, and I think, it being on Thanksgiving yesterday, the way in which those 32 seconds played out, it just left everybody there, I think, no choice. Hey, and I saw that super chat that was just on the screen. Any word on if this was, Poles or Warren? I believe it was both. I believe this was more about convincing George McCaskey, convincing ownership to do what they've never done before.
Right.
I think it's not necessarily been in the works for weeks, but at least been discussed. And I don't know. We'll find out more. We have not heard yet on a media availability or who's going to talk or when they're going to talk. That's still when we get that information, we will share it with you. But I don't think at this point this came down to like Kevin Warren having to go over the top of Ryan Poles. But maybe we'll find out more information here. Again, this is all pretty fresh here. The Bears have fired Matt Eberflus on Black Friday, one day after just an embarrassing ending against the Lions from a coaching standpoint. And I wanted to, do you have a response to that, Greg, or I have just something I want to share too after that?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, no, I think the other thing that I was going to say that, beyond the bad losses and crazy meltdowns and beyond all the different coordinators that were certainly held their own responsibility and blame, the biggest thing for me with Matt Eberflus, where he showed his hand, is doubling down on ignorance. After the Hail Mary, to say those 13 yards didn't matter. After the game yesterday, to say, we liked what we were doing. To say after Tyreek Steve, we had everybody lined up. It's one thing to make a mistake. It's another thing to try to back that up and double down on it. And forever, his legacy here in Chicago will forever be cemented with those 13 yards didn't matter against Washington, just as it did for Matt Nagy when he said, I didn't come here to run the I formation. That's not just ego, that's arrogance and ignorance. And that is why he's no longer the Chicago Bears head coach.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just getting some text here. Apparently there will be no additional media availability today, so we will not hear from the upper ranks of the Bears. It wouldn't shock me if they take the weekend and do something big on Monday to, get their ducks in a row. Thomas Brown is going to, as the head coach, is going to have to talk on Monday. We'll see how this all plays out over the next coming days, but yeah, I don't know if it'll be tomorrow. I don't know if it'll be Monday. We'll find out. But that is the latest on what's going on with the Bears there. And I do want to share some things that I know about Thomas Brown and where I think this really what's at stake here with Thomas Brown too here as the interim head coach. But James Palmer, who's been part of the All-City family, done a bunch of stuff with DNVR, former reporter at the NFL Network, just tweeted this out. What the Bears have put their first-round quarterbacks through. 2017, Mitch Trubisky, second overall, new head coach in year 2. 2021, Justin Fields, 11th overall, new head coach in year 2. 2024, Caleb Williams, first overall, new head coach in year 2. Technically year 1, because they had to fire the coach in the middle of the season. We appreciate everybody watching here. We've got over 7,000 people here on this emergency podcast. And it's a perfect time to tell you that if you would like some merch that we got, like this sweatshirt I'm wearing or that sweatshirt that Greg is wearing, we have our Black Friday sale going on right now. Go to store.allcitynetwork.com. Up to 75% off our sale items. It's all there for you. We got new items, a bunch of collegiate items we threw into the collection. There's new merch, there's old merch, all the hot items that we always have. Black Friday sale going on right now for everybody. Store.allcitynetwork.com. If you're watching on YouTube, you can also scan that QR code. It'll take you right there. Also, we got Nicholas Moreano joining us here momentarily. But first, let's talk about our first sponsor to thank on this emergency podcast, and that is Sunnyside. Our friends at Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary are here to elevate your fall season. Sunnyside is your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping. They have a crazy selection with over 100 different strains to choose from, with easy online ordering and in-store pickup. Stop in the store nearest you throughout Illinois for expert guidance from their staff, or select from quality lines like Cresco or Floracal. And running through the end of the year, Sunnyside's Scratch and Stash is back again this holiday season. Receive a scratch-off card every time you shop, now through December 31st, or while supplies last. Every card is a winner. You could win big, like getting 50% off or $100 off your next purchase. So hurry on into Sunnyside to see what you can win. Visit sunnyside.shop for bright buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Enter promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, bright buys every day, only for 21 plus or Illinois medical card holders.
That's right. And after these last 2 exhausting days with our Chicago Bears, never a dull moment. You know, one thing you're definitely going to need, Adam Hoge, and that is a Miller Lite. A lot's changed over the years. One thing that hasn't, the great taste of Miller Lite. Another thing that hasn't changed is that it's less filling. So what is the best thing about original light beer? Well, Miller Lite sparked this debate in 1975, and we still haven't settled it. Great taste or less filling? Well, Miller Lite keeps it simple, undebatable quality, great taste, only 96 calories. Miller Lite is the official beer of the Chicago Bears. You don't have to choose what's best. Miller Lite has great taste and is less filling. Tastes like Miller time. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/CHGO football, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 96 calories per 12 ounces. Fewer calories and carbs than premium regular beer. Make sure you go get yourself some Miller Lite. All right.
That one wasn't as good.
Well, we're working on it. We're working.
Nicholas Moreano joining us now. We will also have Mark Carman in a little bit, and I think Lance Briggs is going to join us at some point. We'll get his reaction as well on what is, typically a Bears Monday/Friday episode after a game that has turned into Black Friday in more ways than one. Nick, let's just get your instant reaction to what has played out this morning, including the fact that Matt Eberflus is going to go down as the only member of the Chicago Bears to talk to the media today.
Very true. It's been a very interesting last couple of hours here, Adam, but the writing was on the wall, right? I mean, when you have this decision or how the game played out yesterday, and then every other game before that, just this season, it was inevitable. But I just didn't think that the Bears would actually do this, Adam. In season, break their kind of tradition of not firing coaches while the season's going on. But they did that. And to promote Thomas Brown, like I was listening to you guys on before I hopped on here, completely agree with the move, because I also think as the Bears only have 5 regular season games remaining, you're going to take the identity of your head coach. I think the Bears are going to be a little bit more aggressive on offense, because you have a guy like Thomas Brown, instead of having the conservative head coach that Matt Eberflus was, selling for field goals, maybe not going for on 4th downs. Thomas Brown, I don't think you have a question about that. If there's a situation where it seems like the Bears are going to go for on 4th down, like they're going to do that, because that's what Thomas Brown brings to the equation now that he does get this little test run as a head coach. But the way things ended, and it was I'm still trying to wrap my brain about how that was the way that it ended. It was the writing on the wall for Matt Eberflus. I'm just really surprised I actually did it during the season.
And the thing is, this is where I was just for the last 3 weeks, somewhat losing my mind on these post-game shows. I mean, it's kind of par for the course for me, but everybody's surprised because of this precedent that the Bears have set. You know what precedent you need to set at Hallis Hall? Using logic. And that was all I was trying to do as it unfolded. I didn't call for Matt Eberflus to be fired after the Washington game. But then when you lose to Arizona and then you lay the biggest egg you possibly could against the New England Patriots at home, losing 19-3 to one of the worst teams in football, your team wasn't just bad that day. They quit. They absolutely quit on the coaching staff. And then for all the players to come out and start saying things that they had been saying publicly through that 3-game losing streak, logic said you needed to let go of Matt Eberflus because the locker room no longer trusted him. Sure, he's a nice guy. Maybe he's not the worst defensive coordinator in the world. He understands the game of football. He's not the right guy for the job. And the players started to recognize that without any question. He was already giving everyone questions last year, players, fans, and everyone else alike. Then this year it rolls over into that Washington game and you start to see the same fingerprints that you saw on losses last year. The players had enough and the organization needed to have enough at that time. So as I say a lot of times on these shows, you reap what you sow. And when you decided to sit on your hands and try to put a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound, then you get 3 of the most embarrassing losses in a row that I have ever seen in my lifetime as a Chicago Bears fan.
Well, Greg, you also say he wasn't obviously as a defensive mind. Yes, Eberflus is probably you consider him a good coach, but when you look at this defense, though, the way that they give up yards, and they're lucky their red zone defense hasn't been as good as it has been, and even yesterday in yesterday's game, but they cannot stop the run. That's the emphasis for every defensive coach probably in the NFL. Stop the run. They could not do that in any of these games, especially this season. They were good at it at one point, but this season, you guys, it didn't matter who the running back was, what the offensive line was like. They were running all over this Bears defense, and I think that also goes back to Eberflus and the inability to get his guys ready.
Absolutely insane they let him speak to the media this morning, Adam. Honestly, insane.
Yeah, and those are the things that make you wonder about, the decision makers that are still there. I don't know what to make of that right now. They're getting killed for it. I'm looking at Twitter right now, and everybody. I should probably share some of this stuff. I know. I even just saw a tweet from Stacey Dales, who she couldn't believe he talked this morning. Here's an update from Albert Breer. The Bears coaching staff had normal morning. They went through their meetings and day after game routine. They were set to go home to their families at noon. And then in the 11 a.m. hour, Matt Eberflus gave his coaches the news in a brief meeting. Yes. I think, I had, some people know I was doing Hogan Johns, and I had received a text there in the middle of us doing Hogan Johns that basically stand by that something could still be happening today. So I think that here's my educated guess, because I've had stuff been trickling in all morning, guys. I think that this was starting to go down before Matt Eberflus was talking this morning. It was definitely odd and different that we did not get that Zoom link until 2 minutes after the thing was scheduled. There was questions that were we were wondering where the Zoom link was, and there was basically no response until it finally came. So the stuff was in the works this morning. How Matt Eberflus was still allowed to do that press conference, I don't know. I hypothesized on Hogan Johns earlier, and I still wonder, was how he reacted this morning still part of the decision-making process? How he what his messaging was and how he handled it, was that still part of the process? I would hope that the decision had already been made and was not, hinging on that. So that might be a little bit of a leap. More likely, similar to the game yesterday, the clock ran out. there was confusion, and the end of the thing was that's the most likely scenario probably.
They ate a lot of turkey last time. They're like, whoa, hey, we got to get up and make a decision here. Wait, who's going to be our coach, for the rest of the year? Let's just pick this out of a hat. Yeah, like out of a hat, So, yeah, I mean, just look back to how they handled the Shane Waldron situation where, they asked Matt Eberflus after the Patriots game, like, are you considering a change at offensive coordinator? And he didn't say no. He was like, well, we're going to consider everything. So that led you to believe that there was going to be a change made. Then reports started to come out on Monday night, from different sources in the media saying, well, I think they might be considering, I think it was Albert Breer that put out, I think they might be considering moving him up into the booth, that being Shane Waldron. And then all of a sudden Tuesday morning, boom, he gets fired. So it took them 3 days, Sunday night, Monday, and then Tuesday morning to figure out what they wanted to do with Shane Waldron. So it wouldn't have surprised me if Matt Eberflus had gotten fired tomorrow. Logistically and from a process standpoint, these guys are just so deliberate with whatever they're trying to do as a team. I can already see it with Kevin Warren and George McCaskey and Ryan Poles and all of them. Like every time they have a meeting after practice, like it's always very structured and organized and detailed. You saw a little bit of that in Hard Knocks, but you know what? It's a touch too methodical. And sometimes you got to understand what's right in your face and react swiftly and then deal with what you got to afterwards. I understand the approach sometimes can be the professional way, but there is another process to those things that I think can be sped up, especially in times like this.
They just can't get the obvious win. The win was right there. Fire him after the game so you don't have to put yourself in this situation where the optics look absolutely awful right now for the Bears, letting Eberflus talk this morning. Like, take the obvious win that you have right there. You fire the head coach. He made a terrible decision at the end of the game. There shouldn't be any more excuses why to keep him. The excuses are out the window at that point, but the Bears just can't find that.
There's a statement from Kevin Warren. I don't know if you've seen it here, Adam. I can read it as we bring Mark Carman here into the fold. You want me to?
Yeah, I was trying to look. I was looking for it in my email. Did it show up here?
Chris,
here it is. I got it. Here's the official statement from the Chicago Bears. As Mark Carman joins us as well. The Bears have made it official with a couple statements here from both Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren. I'll first start with Ryan Poles. This morning, after meeting with George and Kevin, we informed Matt of our decision to move in a different direction with the leadership of our football team and the head coaching position. I thank Matt for his hard work, professionalism, and dedication to our organization. We extend our gratitude for his commitment to the Chicago Bears and wish him and his family the best moving forward. Again, that was Ryan Poles. And now from the CEO, Kevin Warren. He said, I support Ryan in the decision that was made this morning. We understand how imperative the head coaching role is for building and maintaining a championship caliber team, leading our players and our organization. Our fans have stood by us and persevered through every challenge, and they deserve better results. Our organization and operational structure is strong, focused, aligned, and energized for the future. Again, that's Kevin Warren. My initial reaction to that, guys, Mark, I'm curious what your reaction is too, but I will start with this. The wording from Kevin Warren in there is important. I support Ryan and the decision that was made this morning. That's certainly presenting the picture of Poles making the decision and Kevin Warren signing off on it. And then to throw in at the end to our organizational and operational structure is strong, focused, aligned, and energized for the future. They got some convincing to do on that, but that goes back to the show we did earlier this week about Kevin Warren. I just think that from an optics standpoint, this was a move that had to be made because everyone's sitting here going, what is different about the Bears? Nothing is different. It didn't seem like it was different up until even this morning. Matt Eberflus going on a Zoom call at 9 a.m. Everything is the same. It just looks dysfunctional, whether it is or not. And so, that's great that they worded it in those statements that are carefully vetted and written for them and all that. Those guys need to have a hell of a press conference whenever that happens to really convey that message to their fan base.
Well, here, let's just start at the top. This was one of the worst decisions that Ryan Poles has made in his tenure by far. When I was listening in the car driving home here.
Well, it's number one, Carman.
Right. You doubled down on Matt Eberflus after you saw what happened in the Cleveland game, after you saw the locker room be disappointed with him when you had a chance to be in the playoff picture last year. You were able to do it because there wasn't as much pressure on the franchise, but it was such a poor miscalculation. Fast forward to today. This process of operation is why the Bears are the Bears. It's never the head coach. It's never the general manager. When you are this inept for this long, it's always at the top. And for whatever reason, the fact that they couldn't get their ducks in a row before 9 a.m. today on what they were doing is a huge underlining of the dysfunction that has been in the organization forever. Now, is that changing as of 11, whatever it was today when they made that announcement? Let's hope so. It's possible. Kevin Warren is different and all those things. But we've done this a million times. People were dying for John Fox to get fired. Then he got fired. Then the first game of Matt Nagy, when I was doing post games on WGN, Ed O'Bradovich wanted Matt Nagy fired, and that went on for of course they had the first year and all those things. But the point is that you have to hope that things, and to Kevin's message that you're talking about, Adam, that he's trying to underline that there is an energy in the organization and whatnot, and he's obviously at the front of that. So I do like Thomas Brown getting a shot here, but the way today went down is an underlining as to why it's been since 1985 that the Bears haven't won a Super Bowl. Period. End of story. And to the Flus, I'm glad they put him out of his misery. The fact that he had to do one more press conference with the Chicago media was ridiculous, but that's like the least of his worries right now. He was never, I was never a Flus guy, but this wasn't like some evil dude either at the same time. So I don't feel the need to dunk on him today.
Yeah, we can talk a little bit about that because we do need to close the book on Matt Eberflus. A lot to look forward to here with Thomas Brown and what's still ahead in these final 5 games. So stay with us, but first we got to thank a couple sponsors here on this emergency podcast, which we always love doing for you guys. A lot of people watching. Thank you for being here. Go check out CIRCA Sportsbook, because whether it's pro or college, the app to bet football is CIRCA Sports Illinois. You could even have bet Matt Eberflus being the next coach to be fired. I believe he became the official favorite earlier this week. CIRCA Sports is sports betting the way it should be. CIRCA Sports Illinois has high betting limits, low holds, and exceptional customer service. Bet on all your favorite teams in every game this season. Spreads, props, futures, or in-game. CIRCA Sports has it. Fun and bet like a pro from anywhere, anytime in Illinois. Download your new bookie today at circasports.com. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Go check out CIRCA, and you got to check out Empire Today. With Empire Today, you get shop at home convenience, the right products for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a low price guarantee. Empire Today is the best place to get new flooring. So, of course, they have copycats, but they can't beat Empire on quality, service, speed. So they advertise low quality products that they simply won't carry. They won't promise the lowest prices, because anyone who does that is putting flooring in your home that wouldn't put it in theirs. And they keep shopping for floors simple with a curated product selection. Empire's philosophy is to help you find what you need, not overwhelm you with thousands of choices or substitutes. What they leave out on the selection floor is as important as what they put in. They also have this virtual floor design, which is a great way to see how new floors will look in any space. It's easy. Just snap a picture and instantly see how new floors will look in your room. So you can schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 discount when they use the promo code CHGO. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/CHGO for details.
All right. Keeping things rolling here on CHGO. I know we got Lance Briggs standing by. I am actually going to step out for a little bit here because I've been going for a while, because one of us has to jump out to keep this 4-box going. But I will say this. I got a lot more coming up on just, kind of closing the book on Matt Eberflus, what he's been as a head coach, and also what I think we can expect from Thomas Brown here down the stretch. But I am curious to hear what Lance Briggs has to say. So, Greg, why don't you take it from here as we welcome Lance in?
Yeah, absolutely. Joining the show as always is our guy Lance Briggs. It's been an eventful morning. I know you were at football practice.
It was a football practice. So tell me what I missed. Is there anything? What's going on?
A few things have transpired, Lance. Well, Matt Eberflus spoke to the media at 9 a.m. and talked about looking ahead to the San Francisco 49ers. And then 2 hours later, Matt Eberflus has been fired, and Thomas Brown is now your interim head coach.
Wow. Okay. All right. I mean, we knew this was going to happen. We knew that he was going to get fired. This is the first time that the Bears have ever broken precedent. So it's I don't think it's a surprise. I'm sure that everybody in Chicago, we're still emotionally tied to what's going on. Yep.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, maybe hop back out, and then your audio is like cracking really hard when you're speaking.
Is it bad?
Yeah, it's cracking pretty hard.
Do the bounce out, bounce back in, Lance. We'll try for it. We'll go for a round two here. I'm gonna pray for you and hope for the best. And
yeah, we definitely want to hear thoughts from Lance.
Oh, yeah.
You know, maybe even get a few grades in here from Lance as we continue to roll on. Please hit that like button. We almost have 10,000 live viewers here this show. Let's try to get it. We crossed the 9,000 threshold. And obviously this is a story that a lot of people are interested in. But a lot like when Justin Fields was traded last offseason, there was a lot of anticipation to that moment because you could feel like it was inevitable. But as Carm said about not wanting to dunk on Matt Eberflus, don't get it twisted, from all my rants. I don't have anything against Matt Eberflus. This is a business, and I'm a Bears fan, and we're calling it like we see it. And when Justin Fields was traded and when Matt Eberflus is fired, it's the signal of a moment of things not working out. And that ultimately is disappointing. I want nothing more than the Bears' decisions to work out because I want them to win a Super Bowl. Did I agree with them keeping Matt Eberflus last offseason? No. But did I think there was a pathway to success despite that? Yes. And they didn't get there. And that's when, hey, it's money on the table time. And when you fail, there has to be accountability in this business, and that means people have to lose their jobs. I'm sure he'll find a job somewhere else in the NFL going forward. He'll be okay, but I'm certainly not celebrating someone getting fired, but calling for it was the obvious thing that needed to be said as we were doing these shows over the last month and a half.
Look, I'm going to start where I was at the original point here. You are in the Caleb Williams window. Okay. This was a treasured year. You went out and you spent a 4th round pick on Keenan Allen and paid him $24 million to be your number 2 wide receiver to nurse along Roma Dunze in his rookie year, to give a soft landing spot for Caleb. You went out and interviewed 13 offensive coordinators and you let Matt Eberflus make that hire. This is a disaster for the Bears. There's no way around it. They literally, let's restate what has happened. They've never fired a head coach in the middle of a season ever. And they did it today because of the disaster that it's become. I mean, you just can't get away from how bad that is. This is an organization that doesn't want to do this, but there was no way you could put him back in the locker room, which is why yesterday on the show, we were saying that I don't think you can have him go for because it just seems completely untenable. I mean, you were in the locker room yesterday, Nick. He started to lose this team a long time ago, but by yesterday, he had lost it probably after the Commanders game. But whoever was holding out hope that I don't know, they'd start winning games where he wouldn't have to have any impact, that wasn't going to be the case because the roster is just not good enough right now where you're going to be blowing out teams. The fact that they're in these games with Detroit, with Green Bay, with Minnesota, if you're looking for positives, it's a good sign. But you needed a difference maker in that seat, and you had the exact opposite.
You did have the exact opposite. And the comments kept coming out of that locker room on the calls, the judgment plays that Matt Eberflus was being questioned on. And it wasn't just offensive players, defensive players, like everybody was starting to question things. Cairo Santos, like it doesn't matter. Offense, defense, special teams. So everybody was starting to have this pushback on what was going on. And, I think how he also addresses things in his post-game press conferences, like that's a slap in the face to fans when we all know what the obvious answer is. And that's where I think there's this personal, maybe for a lot of people, like they don't want Matt Eberflus here. And now he's not, because of how he's addressing like fans that are not football smart. The people in our chat are football smart. They know what good football looks like.
Right.
And when you're putting up those answers that you are in front of the press conferences, in front of everybody, it is a slap in the face. So that, along with the locker room being lost, like, yeah, it was time.
100%. We're going to bring Lance Briggs back here into the discussion. Apologize, Steven. I know he's yelling at me in the background. I apologize there. Stepping on our producer. Look at me. I just overrode our head coach and Steven Nicholas. I better watch myself or I'll get Shane Waldron out of here real fast. So Lance, as you come back here into the fold, as we said, Matt Eberflus speaks to the media at 9 a.m. Then Matt Eberflus gets fired, and now Thomas Brown is your interim head coach. Just want to get your reaction to all the news that's transpired here this morning.
Well, it goes like this, fellas. The concerning thing for me is the pressure that's on Thomas Brown. There was, over the last couple of weeks, Thomas Brown has been kind of this glimmer of hope for the Bears, and he created the outlet for the atrocious, Matt Eberflus, everybody wanting his head, and being able to release him. I just think there's a lot of pressure right now. What do the Bears do right now? And what are we expecting of Thomas Brown as the interim head coach? Now, does he have to come down from the skybox? Like what happens with the Bears now? And is the pressure that's on Thomas Brown, is it realistic or is it unrealistic to shape the Bears moving forward?
Well, along those lines, Lance, would you have made Thomas Brown your interim head coach with the choices available?
I would have sat the coaches down. Not Eberflus. He wouldn't have been in my seat, not at all. But I would have sat the coaches down and said, what's the best situation for us? And how should we move forward? There's a couple of head coaching options here. I know that some of you guys are vying to be the head coach of the Chicago Bears, but what's the best situation for us to get through this season and as productive as possible? What can we do? Rather than say, all right, you're going to be here, you're going to be here, you're going to be here. And Thomas Brown, he's the commercial pick because of what's happened over the last few weeks. Maybe it's Caleb. I don't know. But there has to be thought that's put into this rather than us react emotionally.
Lance, and that's a really good point about like Thomas Brown. If now that he's going to take on this role, going from the box, where obviously there was some success being had with Caleb Williams in this offense, but having now to be on the sidelines, obviously Thomas Brown preferred that for a reason, but now this is going to change the optics of things, how he's going to see the field, how he's going to have to operate with everybody on the sidelines. So, and again, the most important thing in this 5 games left is the development of Caleb Williams. That's what you need to have going. And we'll see how that plays out with Thomas Brown now being in a different situation.
And the guys that were around Eberflus, he wasn't getting great information. Listen, he terrible at the challenge flag. All right, terrible at it. Okay, and so now Thomas Brown, you're on the field, and you have to trust the guys that were giving Eberflus the information. You tell me what I'm missing here.
Does the fact that they did this, Lance, in season, first time ever, I'm sure perhaps you maybe wanted Mark Trestman out in the middle of the year, that it actually happened now? Or
how about first meeting?
Okay, there you go. Exactly. Which is probably when people, I'm sure this was a long time coming for the players in that locker room. Does this give you any level of interest or optimism or whatever word you would use that, maybe the Bears are actually doing things different nowadays than they did back when I was playing?
No, because it doesn't matter what happens during this tenure. I mean, what the Bears have done in the past. Let's say that the Bears lose every game in a close margin for the rest of the year. Okay, we see progress. What have the Bears done in the past to say that we're going to retain this guy? They haven't. Like, okay, it makes the most amount of sense to keep this guy, but we're not going to do it. We're going to go after the hot name, which is Ben Johnson or somebody else. Okay, so it's like you don't know with this group. Maybe this is the one time where the quarterback, the number one pick, has a real say, and he says, "Listen, this is the direction that I would like to go. I want to be with this guy," and the Bears actually listen.
So you would give him that say? Hey, Caleb, do you like it? If Caleb, would you at the end of the year, let's say they go 3-2 the next 5. Would you sit down with Caleb and be like, hey, do you want this guy? Is that how you would do it?
He should be involved. He should be involved because he's the centerpiece of what you're trying to do, right? If he's the centerpiece of your offense and what you're trying to do. And let me tell you something, what I love, and I was just telling this to some of the high school coaches, what I absolutely love about the number one offense in the NFL, the Detroit Lions, is that they get under center and they run the ball. Old school. They run the ball. They just do it better than everybody else, and they are extremely successful. Jim Harbaugh's doing it in San Diego, and he would have did it here in Chicago. Somebody's got to smarten up and figure this thing out and help our quarterback out. But again, he should be involved in at least the decision making.
No question. I think that relationship's going to play big dividends, and that's why I said a few weeks ago, it was just after the Green Bay game, people yelling, it's one game. He's in the driver's seat right now to earn that job. He hasn't been given it. Now he gets an interim audition, but he has to earn it. Now he's going to be on the sidelines, and his responsibilities are going to change drastically here. And so he's got to show that he's able to handle all those things. And then, of course, Ryan Poles should get the feedback from not just Caleb Williams, but that entire locker room on how they feel like he handled it. But if you do choose to let go of Thomas Brown, then you have now Caleb Williams with his third offensive coordinator in less than 12 months. So that's something that you have to consider.
That's how the Chicago Bears destroy their offensive systems and quarterbacks. They systematically do it each time by getting Jay Cutler had a new offensive coordinator every year he was here.
Yep.
What are we doing? What are we doing? And how are we developing? You can't develop that way.
Well, and what's interesting about that, Lance, is, when you look at Mike Martz and Jay Cutler when they first started, he's telling them, tell Mike Martz, F you. That got caught on the mic, the hot mic on Monday Night Football. But you know what? To your point, they stayed with it for a couple of years, and that offense really started to click with wide receivers like Devin Hester, Johnny Knox, and Earl Bennett. Right? It wasn't like they had, the best wide receivers in football, but Martz made it work.
And Greg Olsen. And Greg Olsen. Let's not forget Greg.
Well, I think that's when Martz came in, they let go of Greg eventually.
They started letting go of him.
Right. But, to your point, a continuity certainly is important. And then obviously the offensive line. Lance, as we roll through your segment here, it's kind of like, it feels like an afterthought after the game yesterday against the Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving. But as you always do, Professor Briggs, certainly ready for your grades. And we're going to get to your grades here in just a minute, but we're going to take a quick break and shout out a few sponsors here on our program. And we're going to start out with Chevy here, aren't we, Carm?
Sure, we are. Friends at Chevy with the Black Friday sales event. We had a great time up at Chevy and Ray CDJR on Route 12 last Wednesday. It feels like a week ago now. Ray Chevrolet right next door. You could score door buster deals on your next vehicle without the door busting stress. Head in today, shop their huge selection of the new Chevy models. The special Black Friday prices. Right now, you can take $32.50 up to $13 off the MSRP on most Chevy models. Unbelievable values as I was walking through the store there. If you're ready to get a car today, this weekend is a great day to do it. You can also shop over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. One of the top Chevy dealers in the Midwest. you're always going to be able to shop one of Chicago's largest Chevy inventories, Route 12 in Fox Lake or raychevrolet.com. Shop the Black Friday sales event all month long by visiting Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or raychevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive.
Check out Ray Chevrolet, and then you got to check out Ankin Law. For over 25 years, Ankin Law has helped thousands of clients in Chicago and across Illinois get the compensation they deserve for their injuries, auto, truck, rideshare, medical mistakes. Ankin Law is here to help and is one of the largest filers of workers' compensation cases in the state. When it comes to commercials, Ankin Law has been aligned with Chicago sports for over a decade, especially local Chicago athletes such as Aldo Sumu, Nicky Lopez, Chris Chelios, and needless to say, number 85, Cole Kmet. Call 312-6 Injury Law made personal. That's Ankin Law.
All right, keeping things here rolling. Back in here, my name is Adam Hoge, Mark Carman, Nicholas Moreano, Lance Briggs here with us as well. Greg stepped out for a second. He'll join us as we continue to rotate guys in and out as we cover this big breaking news with Matt Eberflus getting fired on Black Friday. Lance, I know we got your grades coming up. I do want to get to that, but I did have one question, just kind of listening to the conversation in the background there. You know, I couldn't help but laugh when you brutally honest about Mark Trestman first meeting. But there's some similarities here in like riding with guys too long and like not reading the red flags early enough. This is a significant move today, in part because we've never seen the Bears fire a coach in season before. So kind of a two-part question to you. Why do you think it takes the Bears so long to act in these situations? And two, does the fact that they did pull the trigger today give you any hope that things might be changing here with new leadership at the top with Kevin Warren?
I'm going to start with the latter, which is no. I haven't seen it. And anybody that's been in that position to pick the people that pick the players and coaches have failed. So at least since Lovey was gone, since Lovey was fired. So I'm in a very much a prove it to me, prove it to me, show me why, and what's the due diligence that you're putting into all these coaches. All right. Okay. So we fire Eberflus and Thomas Brown gets the interim and through the rest of the year, maybe he goes 500, maybe he's under 500, maybe he, whatever. And we don't hire him. Let's say we hire Ben Johnson. What is the due diligence for Ben Johnson? Okay. Ben Johnson coaches with Dan Campbell. What we know about Dan Campbell is old school. More than likely, Ben Johnson is the analytical piece to Ben Johnson's old school. Okay. So we're hiring the analytical guy. Okay. We just had an analytical guy, which is crazy to say for a defensive coach. We had an analytical guy for a defensive coach, and it didn't work out. We had an analytical guy before him, and so to me, I really, really need to see the due diligence on who this new coach is going to be. Thomas Brown, he seems to have at least some sort of combination of the analytics and the old schoolness to him. I don't know enough. I don't think any of us know enough. I know that we know that he's a Ryan Poles pick. That's what we know. But it scares me that we continue to go around this wheel that we repeat over and over for the Chicago Bears.
Lance, there's a weird follow on Twitter that's speaking to what you're talking about, that we've been mentioning the Sears Tower every now and then. And his tweet is that this is Caleb's team, and they're going to make head coach interviews, free agency, and draft priorities for him. And I don't know who the Tower is, obviously, and I don't know if this is accurate, but he said a lot of stuff that has been on the money. Would you and Hoge, Nick, same deal here. Would you say that it's pretty obvious with the promoting of Thomas Brown that is at least an underlining of that? This is a decision made for Caleb first, and the team and a team along with it, obviously, because what's best for Caleb is best for the team. But this does feel like this decision was made with Caleb in mind at the top.
Yeah, I think it's more than just Caleb. I think Caleb certainly at the top, but if you listen to the interviews throughout the year, there has been confusion and dismay from most of the Bears players. When you have a Kevin Byard that goes up to your coach and says, "Coach, in this situation, this is what we would have done in the past, for prevent defense, getting ready for a Hail Mary situation. This is what we would have done." Hell, man, like that's enough said. You didn't know. You weren't prepared, and you certainly as hell didn't have your team prepared for those situations.
Well, Mark, too, I think back in Los Angeles, being an assistant head coach to Sean McVay, I think that's a good place to be if you're a guy like Thomas Brown. And when you're looking at the guys that the Bears had currently on this coaching staff, like that holds some weight, I think, and how he presents himself, what the offense was still, was doing in these past 3 games, the second half in Detroit. Like there was a little bit of credibility there. Obviously, a very small sample size, but you do that knowing that the relationship with Caleb is growing. You'll probably be around Caleb a lot more often now, too, now that you're the head coach as well. Like that's something that you need to have you have to prioritize with the final games of this season. So I think it was the obvious choice and the best one the Bears could have made given what they had to work with.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
I mean,
sorry, go ahead.
I'm asking the Adam Hoge best guess at this. Here's the conversation. Ryan Poles, Kevin Warren, whoever. Who are we moving forward with? I mean, what do you think that looked like? Best guess. I know that's putting you in a tough spot, but I'm just curious, like, how do you think they arrived at Thomas Brown?
Well, I think it's what I've been saying for, a couple weeks now. I mean, Thomas Brown, I could throw the question right back at you guys. Who on this staff would you consider as an actual candidate for the head coaching job?
Well, I mean, devil's advocate, Thomas Brown as an offensive coordinator has enough on his plate.
Yeah.
So I'm going to leave him there, and I'm going to.
I don't care about that. The season's over, guys. We got 5 games left, and now the next best thing is the next best thing here is to figure out who is the head coach of the Chicago Bears for Caleb long term. And if you have a candidate in house, you need to give that guy a 5-week interview here to figure out, because it's going off of what Lance was just talking about. Guys, you go hire Ben Johnson, you got to find out if he can be the head coach and OC at the same time too. So everybody's scared about screwing with Caleb here. Caleb is the number 1 pick for a reason. Caleb, while I get he's making rookie mistakes, is also the only reason why you've been in these, not the only reason, but a huge reason why in all 3 of these last games, it has come down to the end of the game because Caleb's been putting you in position. Well, he's been putting Flus in position to then lose the game, but he's been putting them in that position. And so, guys, I'm not worried about Caleb. Caleb's going to be fine over his next 5 games. We need to figure out who can be his head coach. And there's somebody on the staff that they think can do it. So you get this opportunity. All right, Thomas, you've done a great job the last 3 weeks upstairs. Come down to the sideline. Can you lead the whole team? The answer might end up being an emphatic no, but at least you know by doing it.
So you think that this is a legit audition? He does well here. He could very well be the head coach of the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, and I think regardless of how it goes, he's going to get interviews elsewhere. I think Thomas Brown. Guys, look. I've been around this thing long enough, and I mean this when I say this. Like, and the bar isn't exactly super high up here, considering the coaches that have come through this building during my time covering the team. But he has from day one of talking to him, from day one of him, really like day 1, day 2 of him becoming the OC. The feedback I was hearing from within that building was not the feedback you normally hear. You usually hear like the what's going on here type of stuff, like what we were talking about earlier with Lance and Mark Trestman, some of those red flags that were right there really from early on in that whole thing. And with Thomas Brown, it's been the exact opposite. So again, I'm not sitting here saying like, look, they got the next Mike Tomlin in their building right now. Nobody knows that. But I do think that they have a coach who's instantly earned the respect of his players, and it's pretty encouraging. So you get a chance, Lance, here for 5 weeks to figure out how it translates to the head coaching job.
That's a great point. I I guess that's one part of me thinking about this whole process that may have slipped away, and I'm thinking about how that takes away from his ability to be the offensive coordinator. But it really is a dress rehearsal for, can you handle this? And I hope that's what it is. I really do hope that's what it is, because their players have taken to him. So if over this next 5-6 weeks, he handles it the way that, and you can get good response from the players, how do you deny him? How do you deny him? I actually love that idea. I love that commentary.
All right, guys. We got to get to Briggs' grades too here before we let him go. We got over 10,000 people here watching, which is awesome. Appreciate everybody being here on this Black Friday. As we keep it rolling, no matter if it's a holiday or not, we got you covered here on this huge day for the Chicago Bears. Make sure you check out our Black Friday sale going on right now. All the merch that you see us rocking all the time, it is for sale right now, up to 75% off sale items. You're getting at least 30% off the entire store right now. store.allcitynetwork.com. All the merch you see us wear. And by the way, a lot of new stuff that we just launched this week as well. Some of the college shirts, things like that. So make sure you check that out. Now it is time to go to Professor Briggs on the grades this week. Go ahead.
Listen, I'm going to tell you right now, the professor does not have his normal reading glasses, all right? So I got these primes on right now. I got these primes, and I can't see shit. But listen, this is what we have starting with offense. I gave offense a C+. Listen, there were moments in the game, especially in the second half, where I thought the offense, they brought the team back. They certainly brought the team. I love that, Nick. Good job. They certainly brought the team back. The operation at the very end of the game, taking the sack and taking them out of field goal range really hurt this grade. So, you guys comment. Do you guys think this one is fair, or am I offset here?
Well, they did. I think at one point in the game they were getting. Was it 16 first downs for the Lions to 15 yards for the Bears? So again, it's one of those games where it's like, good job, second half, you got back in there, but I'm not going to quibble with you here too much, and because even though all those things I just said about Caleb, he did a great job getting them back in there. He also, if he hits DJ Moore on that throw in the last minute, I don't know if he scores on that because the corner might have come over to help, but he would have had a chance. So there were some missed throws in there for sure.
Okay, moving forward. Hold on a minute here.
You got this.
The shades.
Defense. I know. I'll tell you guys, F+. This is the first F+ of the year. The thing that was most disheartening for me is in the first half, guys, the linebackers not running downhill, not getting into their gaps. This has been evident throughout the year. There were times where we were in an 8-man box and our linebackers weren't coming downhill to hit the hole. There were times where we were in a 7-man box and TJ Edwards didn't fall back into the extra right, because in a 7-man box you have to play 2 gaps. Okay, once the running back gets the ball going one way, you step to one gap. When he bends it back, you go to the other. You have to fall back with intent. You have to fall back knowing that when you fall back, you have to fall back knowing that the ball has to get in that hole and you have to come downhill. And they didn't do that. Now, they played much better in the second half. I'll give them that. They played much better in the second half, but the consistent part of what they're doing has been, they haven't been able to stop the run, and they're not stopping the run because fundamentally they're not sound. So F+ for me, 23 points is way too many, but and giving up as many yards passing and rushing, they just didn't hit on as many goals as I would have liked.
Yeah, Lance, there was one play where DeMarcus Walker was in one C gap. He ended up all the way in the other C gap because that Detroit offensive line just pushed him out of the way. It's like, this is going to be a long day for the Bears defense.
Rough. They didn't handle double teams. They didn't get off the double teams. And again, when you come off of those double teams, you have to have intent knowing that the ball may be there. You have to play it that way. Falling back linebackers, whether you're on the D line and you're taking off a double team, or you're the linebacker falling off, it all has to work together.
Just makes me want to have questions on what's the bigger need going to the offseason: defensive line, offensive line. Does Briggs want
All of it?
All of it. I know.
Give me the line of scrimmage all day. Every draft pick, every signing, just all of it.
Yeah. Well, they're gonna have 3 picks in the top 40 roughly. So
they sure will. And I'll tell you what we won't be doing, because special teams is up next. I gave special teams a C, and hopefully we do not draft another special teams guy in any part of this draft. Okay. And I thought that was fair. I don't think we got a chance to really show our special teams at the very end because of a negligent timeout that wasn't called at the end of the game. So we didn't get the opportunity, but I think C is fair.
Mm-hmm. Agree with that.
All right.
And fellas, and as generous as possible as this is, and I know you're not going to like this, I gave coaching a D-. I gave coaching a D-, which it certainly was an F by EBERFLUS. He, to me, gets saved by the coaches in the second half, because in the second half, offensively and defensively, we gave ourselves a chance to win the game at the end.
Hey, and that's a fair point, because if there is actually something Flus deserves credit for in this game, and that is the defensive adjustments that they made early on in the game. It looked like it was going to be like a 50 points being put up on there, and they weathered the storm and then made some halftime adjustments. And Thomas Brown did the same thing on the offensive side of the ball to get them moving too. Yes, Carm.
And well, I just wanted the coaching thing. I want to know, in the final 36 seconds, as Lance Briggs is watching this go down, what were you doing? Were you screaming at Caleb? Were you screaming at Flus? Were you just sitting there in utter disbelief as to everything that was going on? Give us the Briggs moment in time.
I was at Midway Airport. And I'm moving from, because my gate is like A17 or A16 or something. So I'm moving from one bar to another, like just walking past, and I see the TV, and I get the emotion of this play, and then I'm moving to the next one, and I can hear people, oh! So I'm running to the next one. I'm like, oh, all right, they didn't get the first down. Oh, they got the first down, So it was intense, to say the very least. And then on the very last bar that I walked across, I heard, I can't believe it. I mean, every person in non-football, football, grandparent, everybody was like, why didn't he call the timeout? Why would it was clear as day. So it was an interesting experience.
Can you imagine you're in Midway, you're watching the Bears on the Lions, it's Thanksgiving, there's Lance Briggs, if you're a Bears fan and you know who he is. Lance, what the hell, man?
I definitely brightened one guy's day, because he looked really sad, and he looked over, and I had a Bears hat on, he looked over because he was upset. He's like, hey, Lance, what's going on? You know what I mean? So at least I got a one high five. Maybe one day, maybe guy's day.
Oh,
man. The moment.
Could be another gig for you, cheering up Bears fans in random places. That should pay big.
Hey,
that could be good. Lance, great stuff today. Appreciate the grades as always. And wow, man, they actually did it. They fired the head coach.
We'll see what happens. I really hope that Thomas Brown can secure what we're all hoping. And to me, I've always said this: let's get the coach that's best for this team and this city, not the trendy guy, not the guy that's got the big name that we're like, oh, we got to go get this guy because everybody thinks he's hot. No, let's not go get that guy. Let's get the guy that's right for us. And if Thomas Brown is that guy, let's bring him in, let's solidify it, and let's get him a contract and make him the Bears head coach.
Yeah, and we'll see. I think we'll find out really quickly. If this thing's gonna work or not. So, all right, Lance Briggs, everybody, appreciate you jumping on. There he is. Good stuff. As we bring in Greg Braggs Jr. I had to laugh too that there's a super chat a couple of minutes ago about how our emergency episodes are brought to you by Indeed, which is
Nice.
hilarious for an emergency podcast after somebody gets fired. Although I gotta say, Manny Eberflus probably going to be doing just fine with the money left on that contract.
But I was talking about that last night at Thanksgiving dinner when people were like feeling sorry for him. Like, look, the guy's making $4 million a year. He's got 2 more years left. There's no pity party here. But on the other side of that, though, too, is this dude worked his entire life to get to be a head coach in the NFL. This was its shot. It ends with him at 12-34. It ends with him despised by a fan base. Something that, when he got here, he's taking people around the building. He's teaching them the history of the Bears. He's trying to do everything right by it. He talked at one point about, he just looks at him as a steward for the franchise. So, for this to go this way, it's gonna hurt for a long time.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, yeah, I agree, Carm. Like, people were saying in the chat when I said that I'm not celebrating this. This is the mark of a moment of failure and then admitted failure. People are like, I'm celebrating. I get it. Ding dong, the witch is dead. I understand. But at the same time, like, come on, you can have a little empathy as well. And everybody always points to the money. Oh, well, they make all this money. How about just try to put yourself in someone else's shoes when they work their whole life towards a goal and then they get to that goal and it's a failure? That's just on its most simplistic level. I can empathize with that. And I don't root for that for anyone, but we all are held accountable no matter what job we have, whether you're a head coach of the Chicago Bears or you're a podcaster on CHGO Sports, or if you're a bricklayer out on a job site. We all get held accountable. And at some point, the rubber meets the road if you're not doing your job properly. And sometimes things are going to be said that aren't always the nicest, but they need to be said.
But you know what, Greg, and I feel that's all true. Everything you just said is true. On the other hand, you got players that have been working for this their entire lives too. Yeah. And they feel like they've been doing everything that they can do at the level that they've gotten to win a Super Bowl. Yep. And they feel like you heard it from Keenan Allen after the game yesterday. I feel like we as players did everything we could do. I'm paraphrasing. But so you have a responsibility as the head coach to also deliver for those guys. And when it's not happening, it's as much as it sucks for the guy who gets fired, and I empathize, I've 1000% do, because that guy worked all the way up to the top from, playing and coaching under Nick Saban, to this here years and years, decades later, to get this opportunity with an iconic franchise like the Chicago Bears. These players have done the same thing too in their playing careers. And so it's only fair to them to put them in the best position to have success the rest of the way.
He's affecting their money, their reputation too.
1,000%.
Well, which is why ultimately I think we all got to the point that they have to do it, because the team, you have to do, at least try to do right by these guys going forward. You can't rewind the past. You can't take Matt Eberflus, Shane Waldron out of the equation of 2024. I mean, but a guy like Keenan Allen who's, however much sand is left in the hourglass for him in the NFL. This was a huge waste of a year in Chicago. Got his money, but not going to the playoffs, not going to get re-signed. His numbers are going to be down from where they were, right? I mean, all the things. And, he trying to fight through injury on a team that's going nowhere. That ain't great for him. Not that it's all about Keenan, but let's start with what it is all about, Caleb. And you messed that one up big time. Maybe hopefully you're making it right on the back end here.
So I would, at this point now in the program, because I'm sure we're going to get to super chats here soon. We've been all working hard we've all been working pretty hard here over these last 24 hours, and shout out to everybody here that's tuned in over the last 2 days. I mean, yesterday's post-game show was our most viewed post-game show we've ever done. I think the last I checked, it was at about 75,000 views. And today, when we hit the 10,000 live viewer marker, that's the most we've ever had in a live show. So,
and just a reminder, sorry, Greg, just a reminder, hit the subscribe button. If you're new here, we're here Monday through Friday at 1:00 every day, pre and post, breaking news. You want Bears content, you want to be subscribed to this channel. We greatly appreciate it. We talked about our Die Hard sale, 75% off. If you haven't become a Die Hard yet, it's a great way to support the show for those who've been watching for a while here and feel like, you know what, I love those guys. I want to go next level. discount on all our merchandise, huge discount now. And it's access to our Discord where you can talk to us when we're sleeping and when we're awake on that channel as well. What were we going to say, Hoge?
I was just going to say, too, it's not just Bears coverage we do here at CHGO. In fact, right now, if we have a Blackhawks pregame show going on because we got you covered, for all of our Chicago sports teams. And as soon as that Blackhawks game ends, because they have a matinee today in Minnesota, we will also have a Hawks post game later. We got our White Sox podcast at 4, and then tonight, pre and post game for the Bulls too, right here on the same channel. So that's part of the reason why you should be subscribed. We don't care that it's Black Friday or there's sports going on. There's games going on. Yeah. My Wisconsin Badgers are laying an egg in the Axe game against Minnesota right now, and I'm cranky.
And there's an NFL game coming up on a little bit.
Right.
And no mention of the fact, we've gone, and it's credit to me that we've gone an hour and 15 minutes where I haven't just been completely obnoxious about the fact that it is my birthday. And so there it is. So I've now brought that to the fold. It is my 39th birthday. It's my last year in my 30s. And so, obviously this is a big show for all of us. And yeah, maybe I'll take in a drink or two here, or as Mark calls them, something else.
Well, and along those lines, Greg, by the way, because I got in there late. If Hoge, you're doing multiple shows today, and Braggs, it's your birthday, I'm happy to stay on and go through all the super chats and talk to the people for however long.
Well, before you do,
I'm giving you the option.
Well, before you do too, because I don't want Hoge to leave for this. Because the other thing that's a shocker that we've gone an hour and 15 without me bringing up this fact, and that is I was right. And you guys are going to give me my flowers because 3 weeks ago, I told you that on Black Friday, Matt Eberflus would be fired. And you guys all laughed at me, specifically my guy over here, Adam Hoge, if you remember correctly. So I even put up a bet that said if he wasn't fired on this day after 3 losses, that we would all meet up at some park and you guys could all chuck meatballs at me. But guess what? I avoided the meatballing once again. Just by the hair. You know what? I'm looking forward to the day that I lose my bet of my meatballing. I've done 2 meatballing bets and I'm 2-0 in my meatballing bet. But the day we ever have it, I can't wait. That's right. This is the Not So Humble Brags segment of the show. But I had a lot of people giving me crap about saying Matt Eberflus would be fired after the Thanksgiving game. I had a lot of people giving me crap, and all of us giving us crap for the suggestion that Thomas Brown should be the interim head coach. And now here we are. So depends on.
All right. You get it. Yes. No, we're going to give it to you. Will you shut up so we can give you your flowers? Or do you just want to keep going on and on about how you're right? You were right. Yep. And I guess we were wrong. Congratulations.
Not I guess. Just say I was wrong.
I was wrong.
Clip it.
You were right.
There it is.
Happy birthday, Greg.
Birthday wish. Fines enough. Hey, that just reminds me though of something that because we were all in agreement that he should have been fired weeks ago. I mean, that it was more about doubting that the Bears would actually do it, which brings me again to I think something I said. I even said it Sunday after the game. To me, the reason why Greg thought Black Friday was because they're in a mini buy, right? They get a little break. And now you get time to reset, which is all 100% true. But I brought up how stupid that is because, I get it. Everybody, you get a little mini buy. But if you know you're going to fire the guy, why let him coach another game? And case in point, the final 32 seconds of the game.
For real.
They're always too late. They were a week late on Shane Waldron. They were probably 3 weeks late now on Matt Eberflus. And if you knew on Sunday you were going to fire him, if you really needed those 32 seconds yesterday in Detroit on Thanksgiving in front of the whole freaking country with everybody watching, the whole world was watching yesterday. If you really needed that,
right,
to fire him, that's ridiculous. I don't care if it's a short week. You can't let him go back out there on the field.
And then they
did it, and they got embarrassed again on national television. It's ridiculous.
And then they were 3 hours late firing him this morning because they let him do a press conference this morning and talk to the media. Absolutely bizarre. But the other reason I had quickly, Mark, was the fact that when they didn't choose to fire him with the Patriots game, which it felt like it was close there, Well, you were looking at 3 divisional games in a row that we all felt like they had no chance at winning. I'm like, well, you go from 4-2 to 4-8, and you finish it by losing on Thanksgiving Day on a national spotlight. That was my calculus there. Not so much that there's this extra few days of prep for making the change. Little did I know that they were going to not only lose those divisional games, but lose them in the most embarrassing fashion, arguably in franchise history. So they absolutely had no choice today.
Yeah. And I'm going back to the whole point. You couldn't figure out between 2:49 yesterday to 9 o'clock this morning that, we're not putting him out there at another press conference. Like, we all got, talk about just sort of entitlement. Let's go out and all have our Thanksgiving dinner, and we can talk about what we're thankful for and be with the grandkids and whatever else. Like, no. This dude has put his heart and soul into this. You hired him. You at least owe him the common courtesy that he doesn't need to go through the last drive today like he said he was doing and sit down with Thomas Brown and try to figure out what he could possibly do better, along with the fact that he's got to sit there and basically lie to the media and say that, I absolutely think I'm going to be the head coach against the San Francisco 49ers. I'm confident that you at least owed him that common courtesy. Hey, Matt, look, shouldn't have let him get on the plane. Here, Matt, we have a first-class ticket on Amtrak for you back from Detroit. It gets in only 2 hours later. You don't have to sit here and look at the players. They don't have to look at you. Here you go. Okay, fine. Even better. Here's a
You know what, Carman, I hate to interrupt you, but I've been on that Amtrak on Thanksgiving, one of the more lonely experiences of my life.
All right, limo.
It was dark. It was cold. It took somehow 6 hours to go a distance that takes 4 hours to drive. That I would not have done that to Matt Eberflus.
You're right. Uber Black. Let's go. It's right out there for you. We'll send you your stuff.
What about come on? Like, how about like the Uber share? Like, make them share with somebody.
That would be the worst. So that long of a distance. But that's right, Lance.
Nicholas Moreano missed his flight. We're sending you back with Nick. Don't worry, he won't ask you any questions.
Actually made my original flight. I should still be in Detroit right now. But no, when Lance, before he left, that's why he was a little skeptical about this team going forward. Like, they're still doing things that just don't quite make sense, right? And like, yes, you do fire the coach mid-season, but that's only one step in like really changing the corner and turning the corner, I should say, with this Bears team. So I don't know, man. They got to still get the next hiring right. Thomas Brown needs to show some things in these final games. Like, still a lot left to be done before they're, I guess, in the clear, heading in the right direction here.
Hey, Hoge Insider, what's your understanding of how long Ryan Poles wanted to do this? Do you have any insight on that, or would you be guessing?
I'd be guessing at this point.
Okay.
I do find it hard to believe that this was just something that, it dawned on them yesterday. I have to imagine that it's been sort of on the table here. But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to hear. We still don't know when these guys are going to talk.
That's another thing. I'm sorry to cut you off. Hey, man, no ducks in a row. Ryan Poles, get up there today, and if you have to have another press conference on Monday, have the press conference. Be a professional. You just fired your head coach. First time in the history of the thing. You can talk today. You can handle the questions.
The Friday night news dump. Now they need to drop some more stadium nuggets here in the next half hour.
Is that what we're gonna do? We're gonna have an update on the Michael Reese site on Monday, and then they'll talk on Tuesday.
We have agreed to start building in Arlington Heights. The shovel was in the ground this morning. We just didn't tell you.
Yeah.
It'd be a good play. Ultimately, I don't know if we'll ever know those answers, but it is the $1 million question between George McCaskey, Ryan Poles, and Kevin Warren. Who wanted what? Who had to convince who? Because those are important questions. And as much as I've been a long-time advocate of Ryan Poles, he had me wavering over this last month and a half, and I still don't know the answer if he was the one that wanted Matt Eberflus out of here over the last few weeks. He certainly was the one that doubled down on him last January and talked about how tough he was through the adversity and really was standing by his side. And hey, you took a gamble and it didn't work. So I would love to have those answers. I don't know if we'll ever get them, but they certainly are important, especially when you look at the way the operation of this morning went down. Kevin Warren talks about operation. You couldn't have failed more in your operation this morning by letting Matt Eberflus speak to the media. That was just absolutely insane. So, the confidence that I have of things going forward, I can only base off my fact that I'm a hopeful fan that just wants things for the best. But when you look at reality and the way they are handling things and the questions that still remain with Ryan Poles, Kevin Warren, and George McCaskey, any realistic fan would say, hey, man, you better be careful because they still might not get this right going forward.
Well, if the head coach is not Thomas Brown, if they want to get the guy that they want, you're going to have to pay a Bears tax for all the dysfunction that's been here. If you really want to get the guy that you want, be it Ben Johnson or whoever, Kyle Shanahan, if he becomes available, somebody who's got some big time cachet in the game is going to be wanted by other organizations, you are going to have to pay for it. And hopefully they'll be willing to open up the wallet because Lord knows they have the money, but they haven't done it before.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have plenty of time to talk about the head coaching search. Probably almost 2 months. One thing we haven't brought up yet, though, and I know we got to get to some of these super chats as well. This decision today, and Thomas Brown coming down from the boot to call the offense, it does not just have an effect on the offense, but they need a new play caller on defense. The defensive coordinator got fired today too. So you would assume that Eric Washington, the defensive coordinator, will be the one calling the plays. We have not been told that for sure at this point. I guess theoretically, John Hoge is a passing game coordinator of the defense and has been here longer. So that's possible. And I am curious to see, because I could see that going either way. We brought up earlier with Lance. Matt Eberflus, the defensive coordinator, actually had a good second half yesterday. I mean that's just sort of objectively what happened. They buckled down and they stopped the league's #1 offense and gave them a chance to win. So you are losing something there on that side of the ball. On the other hand, as I have mentioned many times over the last couple of weeks, I feel like the hits principle's kind of gone off the rails since that Washington game, because I think they lost. When you're not taking accountability for yourself, I don't know how you're supposed to implement a system of loafs and accountability against your players. So hopefully those players have still been respecting their position coaches through all this. But so there could be an uptick there is what I'm saying. Now that Flus is out of the picture, maybe that's revamped a little bit because they're happy he's gone. Even though they have a new play caller, it might be a little bit, they might be able to stomach a little bit more of the loafs and all that stuff. So I'm really intrigued. As much as this is about Caleb and the offense these last 5 games, I am really intrigued to see what happens on defense.
Yeah, especially with Eric Washington being a defensive line guy. I want to see more twists and stunts. Like, they're just not doing it when they're going one-on-one with rush is 4 is 1, as Eberflus used to say. So see some creativity on the defensive line too. We always talk about it offensively, but defensively they can do some things as well. One of the few sacks they had in yesterday's game, they brought TJ Edwards on a blitz. Javon Dexter gets a sack. Like, let's see more of that. Be a little bit more aggressive, not like to Brian Flores or anything like that, but bring some extra pressure. It might create some new opportunities for you defensively.
Well, it's weird too, right, Nick? I mean, at the start of the year when they were playing like the top defense in football, they were doing plenty of twists and stunts and blitzes. And then all of a sudden here in the last few weeks, everything has felt so vanilla, especially in that pivotal moment in overtime against the Minnesota Vikings where you're playing, soft zone, soft pass rush and not forcing the issue. And then, of course, the pivotal Hail Mary moment where you're rushing, 3, and you have TJ Edwards spying a quarterback 65 yards away from the end zone. Those are as passive play calls as you possibly can have. So hopefully Eric Washington injects a little bit of aggressiveness the way Thomas Brown has injected that aggressiveness into the offense.
Yeah. Go ahead, Carm.
No, I'm just, some of the Twitter world out there. Apparently, some of the Bears players were learning about the firing, by ESPN, I'm sure they're
okay. Can I say something on that right now? They're not in the building today. There's no big team meeting. I don't know what people expect. I know for a fact not all the players found out on ESPN. Okay, so of all the things that matter today, this is not one of them. Their head coach got fired. That's what they wanted. I don't really care about how that got communicated.
Well, and you saw in the press conference when it went live. Isn't
there a group email that they've set up that every 3.5 years they send out to the players? They don't have that in the system there. This one's out. Up next.
Not everybody was in the dark is my point. I'm sorry if the guy on the practice squad found out on ESPN. Hopefully someone found out here on CHGO. Come on.
They don't have a Slack channel where they yell at each other about what they're doing and not doing, because that would make a lot of sense if they do. But no, but you also, when you talk about the players finding out or how they found out, when the press conference went live this morning, for those of you that didn't follow this morning, they scheduled Matt Eberflus to do a press conference at 9 a.m. Mm-hmm. And normally these guys, our hardy, trusty, credentialed reporters here at CHGO Bears, they get the notification or link or email sent of the confirmation that this press conference is going to start at X time. And today it was chosen to start at 9 a.m. And at 9:03 a.m., they still hadn't had a link. They hadn't even been said anything. So that set everybody a lot of questions. And just going back to the players real quick, Carm, was once the press conference went live, Jaquan Brisker immediately tweeted crying, laughing face emoji, like a direct shot across the bow that he was pissed that he even saw Matt Eberflus's face come across the screen. So to that point, everybody was just kind of waiting, just like we were, to see what the decision was going to be made at House Hall.
Yeah. I would just warn you on trying to understand what Jaquan Brisker is saying on Twitter, because that is a very steep hill to climb. Who knows?
He's been tweeting a lot.
Who knows what was going on there? But the email for me, so just to underline what you're talking about, Greg, because I get those emails too, but I don't always partake in that press conference. And so I'm looking for the email and I don't see it. And it's 8:50. So I text Hoge, or I put in Slack, whatever, did I miss this? Because it's very possible with my organizational skills that I might have missed it. And no, the Bears haven't sent it out. So I was like, okay, well, that is definitely bizarre. And then I actually got it to Greg. I'll give the Bears I'll give them 2 minutes more credit than you just gave them at 9:03. I got it at 9:01. And it was like, okay, well, this feels like they have to have this because they don't have their ducks in a row, which feels very Bears-like, which is exactly apparently what it was. Question for you on a different zone here on the Thomas Brown thing. I'm just curious what people think. Let's just say that they like the offense still, but they don't love him as a head coach. Can you see any scenario where Thomas Brown is your interim head coach now, but there's somebody else they like as a better candidate to be the head coach, and they say, Thomas, you want to stay and go back to offensive coordinator? That's your role.
I'm going to say yes, there is a scenario. However, it's very unlikely. I brought this up on the show the other day. The Badgers tried to do this with Jimmy Leonard a few years ago. He was named the interim. They had some success. But then they went out and they got the big fish in Luke Fickell, who right now is losing 14-0 to Minnesota 2 years later. But Luke tried to keep Jimmy Leonard on as the DC because he had been really, really good for a number of years, wanted to stay in Wisconsin. That's where his roots were. And the players loved him. That was a tough situation because a lot of players wanted Jimmy to be the head coach. So they tried to keep him, and it was just, nah, man. That's and I know he had been working as an advisor for Brett Bielema in Illinois. I honestly don't even know what he's doing right now. So it's a tough situation. I would say there's one difference here, and that is Caleb Williams would still be your quarterback. So if Thomas Brown doesn't necessarily have a lot of opportunities, however, I think he will. Probably have some head coaching interviews. But if the other opportunities that he ends up actually being offered are just OC jobs, and he's being offered an OC job here with Caleb, you're always looking at, okay, well, what's my best path to becoming a head coach? And if the answer to that is to stay here and work with Caleb Williams, I don't want to completely rule it out, although it just, the optics of it seem really unlikely.
It does
help too.
Yeah,
it would help too, Mark, if like same offensive philosophy, that McVay style system, what they're running, a lot more of that motion. So if you get a head coach that has that background with Thomas Brown here, I think that could be one scenario in which he can look to stay, work with Caleb another year, and then maybe that next year, 2025, get himself a head coaching job. So I don't think it's ruled out, but it would create some continuity for Caleb if he can work with Thomas Brown for another year.
I'm going to read this quote one more time. It's about the third time I've read it, maybe fifth, on Mark Richt with Thomas Brown. But, Mark coached him at Georgia, and I just think it stands out to me that I'm reading it over and over again. But he's saying Thomas is a guy that really could have done anything in life he wanted, to be honest with you. Very sharp guy, very good communicator, a guy that has a presence about him. As a player, he was probably pound for pound the most physical guy we had in the Georgia program. He was a physical runner, a physical pass protector, and he was smart. Learning the running back position isn't the hardest position in football to learn, obviously, but you just knew he was a very sharp guy. And then he finishes with, not a shock at all at how his career has advanced. It wouldn't have surprised me if he had gone into another field or been a lawyer or a doctor or whatever. Whatever he wanted to do, Thomas is that kind of guy. So to recap the Thomas Brown thing for me for today, I'm very excited to see what's going to happen here in the next 5 weeks.
Well, to paint a picture, and forgive me if Hoge, stop me if you've kind of laid this whole out, but I just listened to Albert Breer, who was on the pregame show because a football game is about to be played here shortly on Black Friday.
How'd you do that? Aren't you on this show? How did you do that?
Yeah, while you guys were doing a show, I just started watching videos. And so Albert Breer, who was the first to break this story this morning.
Yeah. And you want us to tell you were right about that too? You want us to do that?
What was I right about? What do you mean? What was
I'd watch Albert Breer right
now. Make sure you pay attention to Albert Breer.
Oh, yeah, I did say that last night. You know what? Thank you. That's a flower I forgot to take. I did say set your notifications for Albert Breer last night. But, I mean, that's an easy one to say, right? Because he's been so directly connected, it feels like, with his reporting from Hallis Hall. And look at the way last offseason, how he really laid out very detailed, step for step, the process of how they decided to not only trade Justin Fields, but draft Caleb Williams. And now you fast forward to this moment, he breaks the story this morning that Eberflus is going to be let go. And so he basically painted the picture that around 10 a.m., the coaches are all there. There's not many people at Hallis Hall today. As Hoge mentioned, it's Black Friday, it's holiday weekend, but the coaching staff was there, and they were all with the understanding that they were going to be, able to go home at 12 p.m. Central. And then at 11 a.m. Central, Matt Eberflus called a meeting with all the coaching staff to let them know that he had been fired and relieved of his duties. This is all from Albert Breer. This isn't my reporting. And then 20 minutes later, Thomas Brown and Ryan Poles met with the coaching staff to tell them that he is now the interim head coach. And Breer pointed out that what he found most interesting through all that Kevin Warren wasn't a part of these meetings, and that this is going to be the first big hiring for Kevin Warren as part of this organization. And so that was just his one little part of it that I think spurned his most interest.
Yeah.
I want to say we did hear you say that, Adam, if I'm not mistaken. And unless this show's been going on long enough, I'm just hearing things.
Well, I don't typically.
Well, I read Albert's tweet earlier, but I don't think at that point Albert tweeted something similar to that earlier. It sounds like he had a little bit more detail in that video that Greg watched while Mark Carman.
He also added that, and Nick, you can speak to this, that it was a very ugly scene in the locker room yesterday. That was the other thing he said. So I don't know. You were in the locker room. Yeah.
It was. Nick was there, not me. But that part's very clear.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like all these locker rooms are very similar with these losses too. Like,
it felt like the shots across the bow yesterday were coming quick.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like last few weeks, it's been like wait till Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday when you're on the radio or wherever and you're saying it there.
These were
yesterday.
Instant.
It was getting aired out in the locker room immediately. And you're muted, Mark.
Oh, Mark, what'd you do?
It's the best It's the best he's ever sounded.
Quick, let's go listen to Albert.
Yeah. Mark has
Try to talk into it.
He is very confused.
No, it's muted.
And
It's
see, Hoge buys you a mic, and then
There it is. There it is. I don't know what. There it is. Right, you got me.
We got you.
Yeah.
We got you.
I think my mic didn't want me to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. shout out to Albert Breer, because when you get the name Albert, that's a tough name to rise up in the NFL reporting thing. I mean, that dude's an accountant. Albert is not. I mean, it's just tough.
Albert will always be our guy, because last year at the Super Bowl on Media Row, he came on our set and broke down everything he knew. He always gives a little bit of time, and he's a busy man. He doesn't big time us like Ian Rappaport. So Albert Breer, you're always in my corner. I will. Nope. I've drawn a line in the sand. I know my guy Adam Rank, him and Ian are cool. Maybe he can clear the air with me and him, but you know what? Don't big time brags. And Albert Breer is a humble man from humble Albert beginnings, and he gives us time here on CHGO Bears podcast. So we got Albert's back.
Guys, I think we have 1 million super chats. I think Carm should just have to sit here and read them for 3 hours.
That's a terrible idea, because then he always answers every super chat.
That's the whole point.
That's why I said 3 hours.
I'm happy to do it, but you guys can hang out. Let me just start, and then you can pop back in your Hoge, unless you want to. What do you want to do? Are you hanging?
Just start.
Oh,
just start doing the supers.
Okay, Giuseppe, 1999. Thank you, Giuseppe. I hate to see anyone lose their job, but the last 5 weeks have been the worst I have ever seen. No more cute new coordinators. I need a true general, not an other general play caller. Braggs, love the hat.
Thank you.
Hey man, we hear you. Let's get an established guy in here that excites people, who can lead the Bears, lead the room, all the things. Mark Gautier, the GOAT, always the GOAT. $100. We love you, Mark. Why did they let him do the Zoom? That was unfair to Flus and put the media in an awkward position to ask the hard question that needed to be asked. Should have made this move after the Washington game. GOAT, we said all this, and we 100% agree with you. And then, obviously my added brilliance that they should have put him in an Uber Black after last night with Nick. That would have been such a better move.
It would have been awful.
Hey there. He wouldn't have said a word to you. Another $10 from the GOAT. Happy birthday to Greg. You made me tear up at the end of the post-game podcast. My wife, daughter, and mom mean the same to me. Celebrate at Taco Bell. Greg made all of us get a little emotional yesterday. I think I even saw Hoge have a little twitch of the under the old belly there.
Did I make Hoge cry? That's good. I didn't know that.
I have to go watch this. I haven't even seen it yet.
Twitch of the old belly?
Yeah, you felt it deep in your soul. That's what happened. If you missed it, Greg shouted out the women in his life who made it all possible, who brought us a brilliant, delicious Thanksgiving yesterday. His mom, his wife, his daughter. It was super sweet. If you want to,
can I say two things on that? One is also he was nice enough to throw us in at the end too. Oh, and you guys as well.
Yeah, his coworkers. We weren't first. We were after his friends.
Well,
too.
We shouldn't be. I would also like to point out, because Greg would not bring this up on his own, and that's fine. That all that extra food we had, he took to homeless people after the show as well. So
super
awesome,
nice.
Greg.
Super
That's
nice.
awesome.
So and we had a lot of it. I mean, you guys saw that turkey that had been sitting there for 6 hours.
Yeah, well,
hopefully they'd give the homeless
No, it was good. The food was good, but I did want to shout out a guy, because I was trying to find a few different places where, I mean, there's 40,000 homeless people in the city of Chicago. I mean, the number might be more by now, and I think that's something that people don't realize as you're going through the city, because they're kind of sequestered to different spots of the city that you would never see. And so, like, talking to my daughter last night, just trying to get her to understand, like, hey, we're lucky, some people aren't born into where we're at. So, I certainly wasn't going to let that food go to waste. And I know it was a cold night last night. And so I wanted to make sure that got out there. But, I did stop by a homeless shelter, and they kind of have a different process on how they accept food. But I did meet a guy that watches our show at the at the homeless shelter, and I want to make sure
That's
I
awesome.
get his name right, but he was a really good dude. Valon. He's actually originally from Brazil, but for the last 10 years, he's worked at the Pacific Garden Mission, which is a homeless shelter. And I want to shout out him and everybody that works hard over there. So if you ever have an opportunity to give back and contribute to some of those places, it's much needed. Like I said, 40,000 homeless people in the city of Chicago. And it seems like this year might be a colder winter than most. Try to keep those people in mind when you're donating.
Well said, Greg.
Well
yeah,
said, buddy.
Valon, you are the man. If you're listening today, we appreciate it. All right, moving along in the super chats. Next up is our guy Joey Spathis.
Joey.
Back-to-back softball champion, moved on to greener pastures, working, although he probably would rather be back here because he loves us so much. Happy birthday, Braggs. Was looking forward to throwing meatballs at you, but this will suffice.
I know everybody's disappointed. Trust me, it would have been fun, but it's got to be earned meatballing.
We miss you, Joey. Gritty, $12. History has been made. The Bears fired a coach in season. They did it in the most Bears way possible. Well said, Gritty.
That's good.
They bared the firing. I'm surprised that they didn't have him do another press conference. Later
Announcing his firing.
And that's where it's at. Concerned citizen.
Phil Emery did a brief presser after he got fired. He sat down. He called his own presser. He sat down. He read a statement and something from Kerry Newcomer and walked away, and we never saw him again.
I think they should go back to that, honestly. I'd like to hear people on the way out the door. Hey, thanks to everybody. I had a great time, or I had the worst time ever. You all suck. You could take a run at some reporters. It would have been amazing. Concerned citizen, $10. Thank you, Concerned. Kind of screwed up that they sent him out 2.5 hours before firing him, but can't talk to the fans that had to put up with this when we all thought he should be gone last year. Concerned, you're touching touching them all right there. Papa Hoge throwing a $5 in here. The news is worth a super. Bear down. Look at your dad. Happy turkey, Papa Hoge.
He was confused as anybody last night when,
Yeah.
the move hadn't been made.
Elliot, $10. Crazy how Caleb Williams going into year 2 will likely have a third head coach and a third play caller.
Oh,
right?
boy.
Not ideal. Not ideal.
But you know what? As people were pointing out yesterday, he has continued to progress through the failures of the coaching staff. And if you're good enough, like we always blame, like with Mitch and Justin, yes, you need good infrastructure. You need good coaches to have a successful career. But great players supersede the ineptitude around them. Like at some point, you got to get it right for championships. But if Caleb is who he is, whatever decision they make going into next year, he should still continue to ascend at the level that we're seeing here the last few weeks.
It doesn't matter. You're Caleb Williams. We'll give you 7 coaches in 7 years. Succeed. Maybe you will. Rock Liggins, $10. I like Ron Rivera or Jim Schwartz out of Cleveland. Both have head coaching experience in the playoffs. Both have experience with young quarterbacks and did well. Ron Rivera is an interesting name. Fair history. Great guy.
Hoge left.
Friend of the program. Not an offensive mind, so I don't think it'll happen.
That's a thing right there. Not an offensive mind.
Jordan Brody, $20. Thank you, Jordan. I've never been so happy on Black Friday. I supported keeping Flus this year, but he lost me the last few weeks. Jordan, way that you hung in there. You did your best, and then you saw the light, and now you're sending us a super chat. We love you, Jordan. Thank you, buddy. Zero Demon, our guy, $50. We love you, Zero. I'm curious how he will handle calling plays on the field now instead of from the box. Who gets the OC title now? That's it.
That's why they had to make this move right now. I don't know what I almost had a stroke. I don't know. I don't know what almost came out of my mouth there. All I know is
I think you said poop.
Yeah, I heard poop too. There was a poop.
I think you said I don't know why they had to make this poop. I think that's what you said.
Jenny, he needs
he needs sleep
and an underwear change.
Poop.
And his shoe tied. and his dinner.
His plate of food. You know what? It's his birthday today. He gets all of that.
Someone to lick his someone to lick his phone for him.
That is a real Nick. That really happened. That really happened yesterday. I wish I could say it didn't. This man licked his phone to clean it.
I did. It was stuff on it, and I needed some.
So you licked it?
I needed
What is that stuff that you licked?
Listen, it's my phone, and I can do whatever I want with it.
Stephen Nicholas was watching him, and he's like, and he got up off the couch, like, "Oh my God, what did you just do? That's the most disgusting thing I've ever seen." And I was like, I'm looking at him. I didn't, me and Hoge's looking at him too. We didn't understand. I'm like, what did he do? He's like, he licked his phone. And I was like, it's on brand. Like a dog.
I've never seen Steven react to anything the way he reacted.
The weirdest thing I've ever seen. Someone else has to have seen this. This guy just went full phone and then just wipes it on his shirt like, we're good. Clean phone.
Yeah, phone's clean. CJ Artisty in the chat, cellular assault.
Ooh, that's good.
$29 from Greg's mom, Barbara. Barb, you're the best. Happy birthday to my son. Best gift on the 29th of your for your 39th. Gives everyone hope that we can end the season on a positive note. I'm happy for this team and especially Caleb Williams. Bear down.
Mom.
What a mom.
Thanks, you,
Barb.
Mom.
Thanks again.
Love you very much.
Thanks again for the food yesterday, Barb. We know that you put enormous effort into it, obviously. So thank you. $10 from Nuku. Nuku, we've been missing you, Nuku, but I'm always thinking about you, Nuku. Embarrassing. Made the decision yesterday and not make him do a presser 2 hours before they give him the boot. The decision for the next head coach is imperative. Get someone who gets 100% with Caleb. Bear down. That Nuku,
we said Nuku.
I think that's where we're headed, Nuku. That's where everyone's hoping it's headed, at least. Giuseppe, $50. Happy birthday, Braggs. Please get a general. No Ben Johnson, Vrabel, Gruden, Rex Ryan, someone who's going to bring some fire to the team. And Lance, is it me or does it look like linebackers are catching him him blocks?
Yeah.
Not the
attacking the gaps.
Not attacking the gaps. Okay, I'm sorry.
That's what Briggs was talking about. Yeah, they're not attacking. They're letting them. They're not being the aggressors. So, not good.
And you know what? The other thing too about the whole phone licking incident.
I'm getting texts about this right now.
Let me just. You know what? Whoever's texting you, Kevin Fishbane, mind your own damn business. I know it's you. And the other thing I'll say too is I never get sick. So my immune system.
You were sick for 3 weeks after London.
Never get sick. So you're sick your entire life and you're sick in the head. So the other thing I'll say is my immune system is pristine. And that's because I used to eat food with mortar in it. And now I may lick a phone here and there. And you know what? Just like Dwight from The Office, that's how you build up your immune system. And I bet all you losers get sick all the time. Bet you have the sniffles every day. I don't. I get up and go to work.
Okay.
This guy was near death like 4 days after we were in London.
Dude looks like he fell off a garbage truck, and I wonder if he's gonna make it to tomorrow. But hopefully you're right, Greg. I hope you're healthy. House of Has, $10 to Briggs's point about hiring the next head coach. Remember the reaction to Dan Campbell's appointment. It's hiring the right person that connects the team and gives them something to play for. The Campbell thing's interesting to mention because Dan Campbell in Detroit started out not great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Bad.
And a lot of people laughed at the hiring.
Yeah.
And
very
most people laughed at the biting the kneecaps press conference and all that. And
they stuck with him.
10-1 that first season before he finally won a few games there at the end.
Yeah. T Marsh, $50. Thank you, T Marsh 83. No idea where it goes from here, but glad to see it. Well past time. The cycle, however, continues. Hopefully, Caleb Williams can overcome the Bears' lunacy. Continued great coverage, guys. Thank you. No, thank you, T Marsh 83. Appreciate the super chat. Very kind to you. Thank you. We have no idea where it goes from here either. Greg Rodriguez, $10. I hope Eric Washington can help this defense playing together and not just phone it in for the rest of the year and end up creating bad habits for next year. We have seen a major slip, right? Defense. I mean, you can put it on injuries, but I think you can also put it on distraction, effort, however you want to say it. Thank you, Greg. And Michael Radzina, $20. Thank you, Michael, with the Bear Claw. We need to listen to our enemies. All NFC North fans I know are terrified of Vrabel or Belichick. They don't care about an unproven leader like Johnson. Hire a proven alpha. Missing Harbaugh was a tragedy. You can't make the hire based on the opposing fan bases but it would be interesting to know on some level who the GMs of the other of your rivals who would you hire for the Bears? Not that they're going to tell you, but if we could, lock them down and say, tell us, or else you'll never experience football again. All right. House of has $5. The hallmark of a truly Bears experience, doing the right thing in the most inept way possible. At least I got there.
Common. Yeah.
And I think our last one is Chavis Greenard. Stephen A. Smith's hairline is better than Matt's coaching.
The shot at Stephen A. Smith. Take that.
Man. Well, Stephen A. getting astray here
Just
at the end of the show.
Further back.
It's a good underlining. That hairline is
receding.
Significant. Brass bus $5. Let's make Courtney Cronin the head coach, and she can ask and answer her own question at pressers with Tom Brady as her OC. Don't you mess with Cronin.
She's very organized. She always gets, you're doing these transcripts, you're doing this, so there'd be organization. I'll tell you that.
And Charles Carroll, $10. I'm sure they'll just bring back Nagy. Poles goes back to the head to the KC pool with a Reinsdorf avatar with the clown nose. I don't think Nagy's coming back. Aaron Wolf, $5. Should the Bears bench Caleb Williams to preserve him and get a better draft pick? It might be a good time because of the hit he took in the game. No, they should not, Aaron. He needs to play. $2 from Ryan Schlasner. All in on Ben Johnson. It feels like the money actually might be there for a move like this just to try to get out of this disaster that they're in. But, that's still a long putt there, Ryan. Thank you. Appreciate it. And now, Hoge, why don't you tell everybody about the Black Friday sale, because you love it so much, and so do you, Braggs.
Everybody loves it. Why would you not love it? It's our CHGO Black Friday sale. It's going on right now, up to 75% off and 35% off the entire store at store.allcitynetwork.com. All of our great t-shirt designs, our hoodies, all the stuff you see us wearing, what we're wearing right now, it's all available for you. Store.allcitynetwork.com, or scan that QR code right there on your screen if you're watching on YouTube. And by the way, that's for our whole network. It goes beyond CHGO. So we got some new college gear up there. So if you happen to be like a Wisconsin fan for some reason right now, you can go check out that. Even like the Texas shirt we have is unbelievable on the DLLS store. So there's a lot of great stuff out there. If you want Coach Prime to be the Bears' next head coach, there's a whole collection on there that you can go check out at store.allcitynetwork.com.
I'm wearing the
You got Iowa here?
that one today.
Yeah.
But the shirts, they're just phenomenal quality. They're soft. They're what you want. So, and no better time to get them than on the Black Friday sale. Store.allcitynetwork.com. And the Bear stuff's great. The diehard stuff's great. The Komet stuff's great. The Cubs stuff's great. The Bulls, Blackhawks, White Sox. There's really something for everybody in there.
Can't go wrong.
All right, guys. Appreciate everybody being here.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we try to do everything we can for all you fans, and we can't tell you guys how much we appreciate your support. That's why we're doing the Black Friday deals. We do every year. We do a lot of other deals throughout the season, and we always try to take care of our diehards. We have, just so you guys are clear, because I saw Hulk Hoger in this chat. He was disappointed about his super chat not being read, and I'll throw you one, Hulk, just so you understand, though. We have 72 super chats right now. So we just physically cannot read all of them. And every single person that put a super chat in today, we can't thank you enough for the support that you give to this program. We put them all on screen. But unfortunately, when there's shows like this, We just simply cannot get through them all. We got to get back to our families. But Hulk Hoge finishes with also homework for Carm. Review every future head coaching candidate pressers, because apparently Carm knows how to spot a good candidate more than George does. So
I do.
I just realized that avatar is me.
it's you.
No, it is. Damn,
It's Hulk
look at the
Hoge.
guns.
Hulk Hoge. Okay.
Hulk
All right, so
Hoge, you get all your super chats on the screen and read for now on. Okay?
Yeah.
Because I've never looked that good. Thank you.
Pizzatola finishes. Yep.
No, he doesn't.
We love you, Pizzatola.
Arctic $2. Irony. Eberflus gets the DC gig and wins the Super Bowl.
That would be crazy.
Oh, I had a good buddy's dad stop me as I was leaving the gym yesterday. He's like, just hear me out. Just demote him to DC. I'm like, Tom, it's not happening. Let me leave for the love of God. But hey, we finally got a resolution, Bears fans, and hopefully better days ahead. Nothing tomorrow's promised to no one, but you know what? Everything we've seen from Caleb Williams over these last 3 weeks has to leave us all optimistic about the future. And now, just like last year was a big decision at quarterback, we've got arguably an even bigger decision here at head coach coming up. And we'll be covering all of it front to back, starting now with Thomas Brown's audition, all the way through the offseason, through the Super Bowl media row, through the combine, through the free agency process. We're going to be here from you 365 days a year, pre and post, 5 days a week. This is what we do here at CHGO Sports. 71,800.
Hit that subscribe button, please. Right. I think we are down. We probably added over 600 subscribers just during the show or something. Yeah, I feel like that number was in the low end of 71,000 when we started.
Over 600 so far this show.
Yeah, that's awesome. Keep it going. Maybe we can get over 72,000. Not by the time we sign off here, but maybe by the end of the day as more and more people watch this later. We greatly appreciate it. Let's keep that channel going. We have the best and the most sports coverage in this town for all of our teams. Don't forget, coming up later today as well, we got our Blackhawks post-game show. They're playing right now. CHGO Blackhawks will be on as soon as that game ends right here on CHGO. And we also got Bulls tonight. Pre and post game coming your way. It is Black Friday, but sports are on the menu, and we are always here for you. And especially when breaking news happens, like today with the Bears firing Matt Eberflus. And I would like to thank them for getting it done this morning so that we can enjoy the rest of our weekends.
Yeah.
I'll be going to Bull Celtics tonight. If you want to talk more Matt Eberflus and you see me on the concourse, just stop me. I don't need to see the Bulls play. We can do another podcast right there at the UC. Go Bulls.
There you go. All right. There it is. All right. Thanks to everybody again. Check out the Black Friday sale, hit subscribe, tell somebody about the show, send the link off, and we got all the clips. If there's anything you missed, it's everywhere, YouTube, all our social media channels. We greatly appreciate you. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we will be back on Monday with another loaded show coming your way. And honestly, we might need to come back earlier depending on media availability and things like that. Everything will be fluid.
If Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren talk over the weekend, we'll be here, but otherwise we'll see you Monday.
Yeah. Absolutely. Talk to you later.
We all silly like the mayor.